Contemporary, relevant, timeless. You are now listening to Open Forum with Susanna Samsudi.
Evening hours at IKIM FM. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to our dear listeners of IKIM FM. Welcome to a brand new episode of Open Forum. I'm your host Batrisha Afrina. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much for listening to us from wherever you are. Either you are listening to this through radio or even through our social media pages, Facebook and YouTube. So in this episode of Open Forum, we would like to invite you listeners to reflect more deeply on the relationship between faith, ethics and excellence in our daily lives. Of the religion is understood mainly through the lens of moral correctness, doing what is right. Yet, in a rapidly changing world, if we look in the nowadays modern context, questions arise about whether this understanding alone is sufficient to drive progress, productivity, and well-being. So in our discussion for today's, we are going to talk about rethinking faith from doing things right to doing the right things. So to help us to unpack, to understand more about this important question, I have here in the studio with me is Puan Susanna Samsudi, who is the fellow at the Center for Economic and Social Studies Emas IKIM. Assalamualaikum and welcome to the studio, Puan.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Miss Batrisha, for again inviting me to this open forum.
Yes, mashallah. It is such a pleasure to have you back in our studio for today, Puan. So, to start with our today's conversation, as I mentioned in the earlier of the introduction, right, that our today's conversation related to about talking about the faith and we would like to relate it, the moral correctness to our faith itself, to the ethics and also the excellence in our daily life. So if you look at it, to start the ball rolling for today's conversation, point, very often if you look at the religious itself, religiosity is usually measured by the visible compliance with rules and moral codes. So while this is important, it must sometimes limit our understanding of how faith or religion itself should influence the quality, the efficiency, and also the impact of our work and decisions. So to start for today's conversation, point, how does focusing only doing what is right can shape our common misconceptions about religiosity, and also how does this affect workplace productivity and also economic growth?
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabbihi ajmain. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Okay, assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to all our dear listeners at IKIM FM. Okay, for our topic today, rethinking faith from doing things right to doing the right things. Okay, it's actually an interesting question because when we talk about our daily life, not necessarily at our workplace, but even at home, at our personal level, it's very important to ask these two questions. So, to begin with, if we want to ask ourselves, have you ever wondered how, small acts of excellence can transform your life and community? Because at the, beginning of the year, it's normal for us to, do some, to visualize what we want to achieve for that particular year.
Yes.
And towards the end of the year, we will, reflect. In Islam, we call it like muhasabah, right? To see how we have progressed, what we have achieved for that particular year. It could be in our calendar for 2026. It could be also in the Islamic calendar, if you want to put it, 1447 Hijrah. Yes. But whichever calendar you want to use, it's still, we need to reflect. In fact, every day to measure our progress and also what we have achieved. So in Islam, this aspect of excellence is not optional. So we might thinking that at least we have achieved this, achieved that, right?
Yes.
But is that the level that we have put our best to achieve what we are supposed to achieve? Okay, so in Islam we have this concept, for example, itqan. So itqan, it relates to excellence, and it teaches us, guide us to do our work properly, and also to equip that, because we cannot do our things, doing things right, just for example, throughout the year, maybe we are supposed to do it like every day, but we do it like measure it probably after 3 months or after 4 months. So that means it's not consistent.
Okay.
So that is an issue. So in Islam, there's another concept. We call it istiqamah. So istiqamah, I think, will complement the itqan, because it calls us to stay consistent, even when no one is watching. And the last part, what we want to achieve is ihsan. So yeah, ihsan reminds us that every effort is ultimately an act of worship. So I think we can relate that one, that if we heard before this, what is ihsan. So there's a story of, the angel came and visit our Prophet Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and asked 3 questions: what is Islam, what is iman, and what is ihsan, right? So that is like 3 layers that we need to achieve in our life. So that ihsan is part of, we can relate it to spirituality, but it's not just on the spiritual aspect, in the sense that we just focus our akhirah without thinking of what we're supposed to do in this world. So this is the important issues we need to handle. So when faith move beyond intention into work done well and consistently and with conscience, so it become a powerful driver of productivity, integrity, and shared prosperity. So back to your question. So doing what is right shape the common misconception. So yes, I agree, there is a misconception on that, because often people assume that, being religious means prioritizing spiritual practices at the expense of productivity, when in reality many religious teachings, not just Islam, I'm very sure all the religious teachings emphasize diligence, ethical behavior, and the pursuit of excellence. So in Islam, we also have the concept of ikhtiyar, or effort, right? And tawakkul, the trust in God, that encourage actually a balanced approach where hard work is paired with faith. Because there are also people who focus on, to achieve this level of productivity, to be excellent at their workplace, but somehow, no matter how much they put the effort, but the result does not really, show significant improvement. So they become frustrated, for example. So, and we don't want that to lead to another issue. For example, mental, they feel like demotivated, and, their spirit becomes lower, and also they start to have other psychological issues. So we also want to avoid that, and that's why we paired that with the concept of ikhtiyar, keep working on what we want to achieve, and tawakkul. At the end of the day, we put so much effort, but the results is beyond us. It's Allah that will determine whether we will be successful or not. But yes, the continuous effort need to be there. And also misconception about religiosity and productivity, I'm sure, because some of us think that religiosity and productivity are 2 different things. But if we can integrate that, actually to be productive is part of our responsibility to be religious, then there shouldn't be any issues for Muslim, for example, who are very religious, and at the same time they are very, very, very productive. And that somehow you can imagine how that productivity can improve our economic growth, And there is also another thing to consider, economic growth that we shared collectively. Because we also don't want another issue. Another issue is that, yes, we achieve this economic growth, but it's not equal. There's an issue and inequality. So these are some, I would say, some of the things that we need to ponder, we need to think of when we reflect what are the things that we need to do right and what are the right things to do.
Yes. So, Puan, briefly, we're talking about the integration, practicing religiosity and also productivity. For some people, when they talk or in having conversation of integrating religiosity and also productivity, usually they would think, oh, it's just performing your salat during your work hours, or if you go to, for us Muslims, if you go to work, covering our aura properly, or knowing on how to distance yourself in between men and women. So they just think merely about that. But actually, I believe that in having this conversation, practicing religiosity, meaning more than just that. So for some people out there, they perhaps, and as you mentioned about the muhasabah, you talk about the itqan, istiqamah, ihsan, ihtiyar, and also tawakkul. For some people, they may think, or they can relate, how does these principles can be relayed into their work to enhance productivity, because for some it may just a moral correctness. So to help us better understand briefly, Puan, can you share with us examples where religious principles, when practiced with excellence and competence, it can move beyond moral correctness to actually enhancing their productivity?
Okay, interesting. How does it work? Okay, I would give a modern concept of the company's practices nowadays. So you have this concept of corporate social responsibility, CSR, for example. Okay, people might think that those who work in the companies, CSR are external things, what we should do, outside the companies. For example, I give you an example. For example, like the company is producing food. Okay. So producing food, they might think that, okay, internally what they want to achieve at the end of the day is profit. So that is how they measure the growth. But CSR is what they, give the food, for example, once a while, for example, maybe they schedule on the calendar just once a year. Part of the CSR program is to distribute the food to the B40 or to the poor people.
Yes.
So, yes, that is not wrong. That is a part of their the company's effort to do the CSR. But I would think that if you want to go beyond that in the Islamic context, so what we need actually, you as a company with the group of people, you producing the food, what would be your CSR in that context is to really improve the livelihood of the farmers, who are also the suppliers in a way to your company, to provide food for the societies as a whole. So that would brings the issue of the real CSR to me in the Islamic perspective. And if you want to relate it with ihsan, so it's beyond that. So it's not just selectively as just part of the program to put on schedule to meet the poor people, to bring the food for once a while. That one, I think even the zakah institution in our country can do that. Okay, so that's not really meaningful to the company. But if the company really have the ihsan, they will think about what would be how they can help the farmers to really grow their crops very well into a quality that can turn into quality foods. So, and also, for example, how can they provide employment to this poor society as part of their CSR in a way that really improve the quality of life of these people. So that measurement is more important than just how much food occasionally that you deliver to these poor people. That is one thing. Another example we can give is that when you, as a company, you fix the price for the food. Have you considered, like, for example, people who are middle class and people who are, B40, for example, could probably, you can, suggest prices that become your food become more affordable to this group of people.
Yes.
Not necessarily the same product, because the same product with different prices will be more, you invite more complexity, but perhaps you come with the product range with the prices that can be accessible for your product, your food, to the middle class and as well as to the bottom class of society.
So, from what I can looking at it in the big picture, it can also, many of the example can be related into giving back to the community, and also because when you contribute back to the society, in return, in the long run, that it will eventually, the benefit come back to you either personally or even to the company itself or the organization itself. So I think multiple of times mentioned in this program in Open Forum that if I'm not mistaken, or even 2 weeks ago when we talk about the improvement of oneself, not just relate to yourself, but also in long term or in the bigger picture, it also relate to the community that you lived in, and also eventually goes back to the country that you live in. So this is, I believe, is one of the effort, the community service in improving I would say, the community itself. MashaAllah, we have a lot more to discuss in this conversation, but we go for a short break first. And to our listeners, if you have any questions or would like to share your thoughts on today's conversation, you can leave it on the comment section of this posting on Facebook and also YouTube, or you can simply contact us through our WhatsApp contact at 011 2904 004. So don't go anywhere, stay tuned to IKIM FM.
Ikuti kami di Facebook IKIM FM.
Honor your parents. Our beloved Prophet ﷺ said, one companion came to him and said, O Prophet of Allah, who should I respect and value most? He ﷺ said, your mother. The companion asked again, who next? Your mother. And then third time he said, who next? Again, your mother. The fourth time he said, your father. So your mother, your mother, your mother, and then your father. Respect your father and your mother. Your mother is the door to Jannah, the Prophet ﷺ said. The feet, beneath the feet of your mother lies paradise. So always honor your parents.
Ikuti kami di Instagram ikimfm.my.
Betulkan title tu kan? Okay, tak apa, sorry. Welcome back to Open Forum. I'm your host Patricia Afrina, and you're still with us for today's conversation, Rethinking Faith, from doing things right to doing the right things. MashaAllah. So before we went for a break just now, we listened to sharing from Puan Susanna on how does focusing only on doing what is right shape our common misconception about religiosity, and also how does this affect workplace productivity and also economic growth. And Puan Susanna also shared some examples where religious principles, when practiced with excellence, can move beyond moral correctness to actually enhance our productivity. And one of the examples mentioned is about the CSR, or the corporate social responsibility, or in what I can conclude is from giving back to the community. And going forward into the conversation, let's go back into the modern world, or the current situation that we live in I would say, competitive and fast-paced environment. Individuals and also organizations are constantly challenged to deliver or to show results without compromising values. So this raises an important questions about how faith can remain relevant and also practical in modern professional settings. So here we're still talking about the religiosity and also productivity. So Puan, I would like to ask you, what practical approaches can help individuals and organizations translate these religious values, perhaps some that you mentioned just now, into effective, high quality work practices that can meet modern productivity demands?
Okay. Thank you, Puan Patricia, for that question. So, we refer back to our title today, from doing things right to doing the right things. So, if you confuse, the it shouldn't be any issue, because I'm also quite confused at the beginning. But the thing is here, doing things right means that you have a certain standard. For example, imagine if you work in a company, you have a manual, or you have a standard operating procedure, SOP, or you have a guidelines. So you want to do your tasks, your work according to that, comply to that whatever guidelines or manuals or rules, regulations set up by your company. So you want to do things right. So that means to do things right according to what are the standard that has been established. And for companies, that means if they are doing if they are doing the good things, that means they should have these ethical business practices in place, and they should come out with monitoring mechanism. For example, the audit process, for example, to ensure that employees comply to those rules and guidelines, because rules and guidelines and your mission and in fact your vision, the company's vision, are not just decoration on the wall. It is something that we need to understand and also to comprehend, and also live. As long as we live with that company, and that is the company culture, we need to live with that company culture. Yes. So to uphold the mission and also to comply to all those regulations. So that is doing things right. And what are the do the right things? Do the right things means, after, let's say, giving example, after 6 months or after 1 year, so we have complied with all these rules, this compliance. We need to measure whether what we have done in that past 6 months or 1 year really meaningful. So it's not just, you set the target. For example, you want to achieve the profit of, let's say, 1 million ringgit a year. Okay, maybe you achieve that, but how impactful of whatever your company doing, maybe your operational is excellence. You have operational excellence within the company, so that's good. But how much is it that your company can contribute to the society, to the community, is another thing. So that comes the question whether you're doing things right. So that's when I relate back to our previous example. For example, yes, you have done the CSR to give some foods to the poor people. So that means you achieve your objective for that year, and that what you have been doing for the past 5 or 10 years, for example. But have you ever wondered whether that actually the right things to do? So the right things to do, actually you need probably beyond that. Maybe you start improving. So okay, we have done this this giving food to 50 families. So the benefit is just that 50 for that 50 families who have food for additional food for extra 1 month or 2 months. But if we go beyond that, so we need to really look after this. For example, these 50 families or 100 families with higher quality of life on other aspect. So that means maybe we can hire, I don't know, say 5 or 10 people who are disabled people, for example. So that will be part of your company culture, to really shows that you practice this inclusiveness of these people or this community to your company's practice. So that is at the company level. So just now you also asked me if how we can apply that to the individual level. So individual levels is similar. So we need to measure and reflect our personal development. So for example, if we talking about to become more productive, so whether we need to know whether not is whether it's enough just to to make just to ensure that our works achieve the KPI, for example, the key performance indicators every year. How much of our work has actually helps to contribute to the innovativeness, as time goes by. For example, your productivity is measured. I just imagine, for example, you need to produce 10 report in 1 year. So you produce this for the past 5 or 10 years, these reports, and you meet all these KPI, the goals for your own personal as an employee. But you probably want to think that, for example, with the technology, with the AI, the amount of time you need to produce the 10 reports probably have reduced from for example 10 months. That means 1 month for each report to probably, I don't know, maybe say cut into not half, maybe 1/3 of it. So from say 10 months, it's become like probably 6 months, for example. So that is a example to show that technology can enhance your productivity, and you take that into consideration. And so you might be thinking, so I can do same work with less amount of time, so I become more efficient. So what am I going to do with that extra? For example, if you can complete within 6 or 7 months, so another 3 to 4 months, what am I supposed to do? So that 3 to 4 months is for you to help the company to grow and create the value for the things that, this extra month probably I can help with the CSR program, for example, just now. Or maybe instead of doing just 10 reports, you can add other things that that means that can help, the whole workload can be reduced, and the company can, have more time to sit down together in a meeting to do more strategic plan for how this company can can be more meaningful and increase for example, the brand of the company. Because at the end of the day, whatever, you might be thinking it's just small thing. That small thing, if we combine collectively, this is how the productivity can grow, and the economic can grow as well, inshallah. And it's not just growth quantitatively, but what is more important is the quality, the meaning. You become more, attached to your organization, to your colleagues, for example, and it's more on the meaningful way, because we share the vision and the mission. Really have time to focus on the vision and how you align back, some, for example, some strategic adjustment to carry out the mission.
MashaAllah. And to elaborate one of the examples that you mentioned about the inclusivity, to reflect, I still remember there are some of the markets and also fast food restaurant near my house have these disabled people or disabled workers as their employers, and this is very good to look at. And this, I would say, create a positive, as a customer myself on that time, seeing that it create a positive customer perception, or even actually it gives me a positive impact to the branding itself. Because when I saw like, they are a good company because they hire disabled people as their employers, and not just the customer. It changed the way how the customer look at the company or the organization itself. As you mentioned also point just now, that when you create an environment that is supportive, of course with the usage of technology and others, it create an environment where the workers or the employers feel happy working there, and this create them with this as a result makes them attached to that company itself. So this to reflect back again to my example of me seeing disabled people working at my local markets and also fast food restaurant. I see that they're working there longer compared to other workers, and this is a very good to look at again if we relate to the examples in the previous questions. CSR not just for example food given, but also it also relate to the employees, the workers itself. MashaAllah, we have a lot more to discuss in this conversation, but we go for another short break. And to our listeners, if you want to add on into the conversation, please leave it on the comment section of this posting on Facebook and also YouTube. You can simply contact us through our WhatsApp konti at 01129004 So don't get anywhere, stay tuned to IKIM FM.
Negeri Sembilan 102.7.
There are no limitations to what you can do. However, you limit yourself when you only give yourself goals connected to the dunya. When our goals are only, I want to make this much money, marry this kind of man, have this many children, we become limited and we really can become depressed if we don't reach that goal. But if we expand our reach, our breadth of thinking, and we say instead, my goal is to grow my spiritual self, to work to serve the Muslim Ummah, to be of the people of Jannah, to be someone who's close to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If we can raise up that ceiling really, really high, let's just break through it and just look at the sky, then we're not going to be disappointed. Because no matter what, even when we have setbacks, and we will, because we're working for Allah, even the setback is a step forward because we learn from it. When we don't get what we want, we're looking around, oh, what does Allah have for me instead? What is the exciting thing that Allah is giving me instead? We get curious about our life. So I would say to women around the world, expand your horizons spiritually. Don't limit yourself to only dunya goals. Those dunya goals will be much bigger when we're working for Allah.
According to WHO, nearly 1.3 million people die in road crashes each year, on average 3,287 deaths a day. Drivers who are texting can be 23 times more likely to crash than non-distracted drivers. Posting to social media, checking email, programming a navigation system, or watching a video are among the many excuses people tend to give when they are asked why they text while driving. Please be aware of the dangers and keep your attention on the road, not on your mobile phones or other mobile devices. Texting and driving is dangerous. Road traffic crashes are predictable, can be prevented. Help saves lives. Don't text and drive.
IKIM FM.
Welcome back to Open Forum. I'm your host Patricia Afrina, and you're still with us for today's conversation, Rethinking Faith, from doing things right to doing the right thing. So before we went for a break just now, we listened to points Susanna sharing on the practical approaches to help individuals and also organizations translate religious values into effective high-quality work practices that meet modern productivity demands. So as we are actually reaching the final part for this conversation, we would like to go back into the relating to the religiosity and also the productivity, as we understand now, as we also multiple of time mentioned, that we relate it to the communities where religious communities often place strong emphasis on rules, boundaries, and also obligations. However, a culture that focuses solely on compliance may unintentionally overlook the importance of creativity or innovation and also excellence. So, Puan Susanna, I would like to ask you, in what ways can religious communities shift from compliance-focused mindset to a new culture of excellence, and how might this improve, in your own perspective, their collective economic well-being?
Interesting. Okay. when we want to shift from compliance, to compliance, rather compliant, that means we think of a set of all the guidelines, and we need to comply to that guidelines, to the standards, for example. So basically, yes, you can achieve that, certain operational, the minimum, I would say this word, the minimum operational standards that you need to achieve. So that's the minimal. But now we are not talking about minimal. We're talking about the highest level. So how we want to go from that minimal level, let's say if we put from the range from 1 to 5. For example, that 5 is the highest level of excellence. And from you, if let's say you just achieve, comply, that means you don't ever think that you are at level 2 or 3. You are just at level 1, because that level 1, if you want to put it into the Islamic perspective, you just, the borderline between halal and non-halal, for example.
Yes.
So that's the minimum. So is that what we want to achieve? But how we want to progress from 1 to 5? So we're talking about ihsan, for example, right? So that is the way we should move from that level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And yes, I must say that this is very important. Even to, you cannot go from 1 to higher level without really to have a very strong foundation at level 1. Because level 1 is where, the basic, and you need to make sure that is the level where we put everything in place.
Yes.
With that procedure, we make sure that everyone understand the procedure, for example, and the guidelines, and they follow the guidelines. And this is because why the compliant focus mindset is important, because we need to understand no matter how good is our procedures, how good is our rules and regulation. You might say that it's near perfection.
Yes.
At the end of the day, who will be implementing it? Human beings, right? If you're talking about all of your companies, the companies are made up of people, a group of people. We are not talking about animals here, because animals that doesn't come into our working group to achieve whatever we want to achieve. Okay, and when we talk about human, we need to understand that human have their own weaknesses. So in an ideal scenario, for example, so we talk about religiosity. So of course, if everyone is, even if they achieve the minimum level of religiousness or religiosity, that should indeed foster integrity, transparency, ethical conduct. So that means like you shouldn't have, non-compliant issue. But humans are just humans. So human nature, we have our own weaknesses.
Yes.
No matter how strong is the religious teachings, human beings are subject to various type of weaknesses. Even the personal, the personal weaknesses that we need to tame and we need to improve. For example, the greed, the power, the temptation, the personal gain, all of this is not part of the religious teaching. That means, yes, religious teaching, that's something that we need to, to avoid, something that you need to, if let's say we have that elements, we need to improve. But that is how we need to, to put things when it comes to the organization. That's why the procedure and rules and regulations are there, but the monitoring mechanism are very important. The audit process need to be transparent, need to be important. So this we talk about the absence of oversight and accountability mechanism can lead to, that's why you hear, for example, even the recent news about NGO, probably NGO related to Muslim causes involved in, mismanagement of funds, for example. So you might be, people might question like, how come Islam teach all these things, but these things still happen in the Islamic institution or organization, and even NGO. NGO is supposed to be, a higher level as compared to the company that focus on the profit, right? Because they focus on the ihsan, for example, with all this charitable work. But that's what I said. um, uh, if let's say we have, even if the NGO, for example, have all these rules and regulations, but how 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 they implement the audit mechanism or the monitoring mechanism to make sure that such things does not appear just because of certain individual, just because of one or two individuals, for example, it give the bad reputation not only to the organization but to the whole of Muslim community. You know, you are not doing justice to the whole of Islamic image. So need to think of that to that far, and we need to on top of that, we probably need to reflect and think of, adjust our intention to make sure that it's aligned with the ihsan goals, for example.
Yes.
And larger organization, they have bigger problems because they have more people, many more people they need to handle. So that's why a process is very important. So in that case, probably company need to have a continuous education and self-reflection even within the company itself to make sure that they have all these things. They probably have, achieved even the quality standard, for example, ISO 9001. So that's the minimum for you to achieve the quality management system. So by having that certification for example, 2 or 3 years, so it somehow indicate that you have the quality management system in control in your organization. So you are doing things right. But the question remains, are you doing the right things? So you just, even if you have that certification, and you might be thinking this one is already costly because of the audit process, for example. But it comes more costly when you have certain issues with just one or two individuals, and it tarnish the whole image of your companies. When the trust is gone, that's even worse. So that's why I said, okay, you achieve the level 1, but we also need to make sure that it's a strong achievement for the level 1, so that we can grow easier from one level to another level. And how to go to another level? So you need to come, for your companies, you need to come with, for example, beyond halal to toiban, beyond just compliance to best practice. So the best practice, that means, of course, you will not achieve the best practice in 1 or 2 years. It takes time. And that one, for example, if you go to the audit process, so you need a guideline. So just now I mentioned ISO 9001. We have ISO 9004. So 9004, if you already have that compliance level, at the achieve that compliance level, so you want to shift the company from just compliance focused mindset to the culture of excellence. Probably you want to start looking at ISO 9004, because that is the guideline for best practice. So from level 1 to level 5. So, and that is for companies. And if you're talking about individual, the same thing applied. And for personal level, for example, you might want to go how you can apply Maqasid framework, Maqasid Sharia framework at the individual level. So you need to measure the level of ihsan, and this we can consider. This is a beginning of the year still, so we might want to do self-reflection and intention. We might want to check our quality of work and compassion that comes with our quality of work. And the third one, for example, you might want to measure your consistency in maintaining the high ethical standards. So you cannot, not enough to just achieve 1 or two times for the high ethical standard, but to maintain it, the istiqamah is important. Fourth, at the personal level, you might want to think how your work impact the others. So probably, if not just the societies outside your organization, even you can start with those people who are around you at your workplace and at home. And for personal growth and learning, for example, after you reflect, you want to you check on how your work impact others. For example, you might want to assess how your commitment to continuous self-improvement is there? Are you seeking knowledge? Like people say that if you have a knowledge and you didn't, increase your knowledge, it's like you have a tool, for example, like a knife to cut a meat, for example.
All right.
But you just focus on cutting the meat without, sharpening the tools, sharpening the knife every now and then.
Yes.
So that it can improve the efficiency of your work to, keep maintaining, cutting the meat nicely, for example, in a perfect proportion, for example. So that is how you want to apply to your personal growth and learning. And the last one, of course, you need to focus on the feedback and reflection. So regularly, we need to seek feedback from our peers, if we have mentors, from our mentors, and even do some kind of self-assessment to reflect on our progress and also to identify where there could be areas for further growth. That is to achieve the level of ihsan. So so by that probably I will just maybe conclude with this one. So when we ask what are the things to do right, that means doing the right things. So we are talking about values, ethics, and compliance. But we want to make sure our intentions are also correct. Our intentions are Sharia compliant and our choices are morally sound. But when we relate back, rethinking faith, the faith does not stop there. So we need the second question, which is what are the right things to do? That means to achieve doing things right. So that takes us to do the right thing. So that takes us to a higher level. So we're talking about quality, excellence, discipline, responsibility, and not just whether we do something permissible, for example, beyond halal, but how well we do it. So a society that focus on doing the right things may remain honest, but without productivity, it can risk stagnation, for example. So a society that learns to do things right, guided by faith, become trustworthy and become competent and become prosperous. So this is where faith meets productivity. And to translate this belief into impact, religion, I would say that it become a force not only for personal religiosity, but for collective progress and sustainable prosperity.
MashaAllah, Puan Susanna, that's a very delightful sharing there. And reflecting on it, mashallah, that's the beauty of Islam, where every value is not just guided through our ibadah, but also involved through our daily life, on how we sleep, how should we fast, and even how should we work when we are working, mashallah. And it is very, I would say conclude in every aspect of our life. And I would say perhaps some key takeaway that we can take from it is that when faith inspires competence, disciplines, and also quality in our work, it can becomes a catalyst, I would say, for both our spiritual fulfillment and also, as multiple times mentioned, when we give back to society, it can also develop into the societal progress itself, mashallah. And as we are reaching the end of this conversation, I would like to thank Puan Susanna Samsudi Fellow at the Center for the Economics and Social Studies of Mas IKIM for her sharing on today's conversation, Rethinking Faith, from doing things right to doing the right things. And to our listeners, thank you also for listening to us today. If you have any question or would like to share your thoughts on today's conversation, you can leave it on the comment section of this posting on Facebook and also on our YouTube, or you can simply contact us through our WhatsApp konti at 011-29004004. So with that being said, again, thank you Puan for being with us in the studio. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You are welcome, Puan Batrisha, and I want to leave all the listeners with this just one sentence. True faith calls us to do both, to choose what is right and to do it right.
Masya Allah. Hopefully, Puan Suzana sharing for today's conversation can inspire you listeners to become a better Muslim, insyaAllah. And with that being said, for our listeners, don't forget to tune in to us next week for more conversation. All this only on IKIM FM, Inspirasi Utama Anda.